Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. On today's tutorial, we'll be talking on how to cut a mermaid gown. Thank you so much for stopping by. So, stay tuned. So, the first thing, this is my fabric. What I did was to fold it into two. So, I folded the fabric into two. Alright. So now, how do I know the volume or the amount of fabric to fold? What I'm going to do is I'm going to be dividing my hip because hip is the highest measurement, alright, the largest measurement. So my hip divided by 4, I have 10.5 inches. Alright, so I'll be adding 7 inches allowance to it. 7 inches is for the tail, for the flare part of it. Alright, then I'll be adding extra 2 inches, which is going to be my seam allowance. So the total I'm having is 19.5 inches. So that's the amount or the volume of fabrics I folded here. Okay, so that's the first thing first. Then the next thing now I'll go ahead and do is the full length of my gown. Alright, so I'm going to be minusing my half length from this. So now I'll place my tape, then I'm going to be removing the half length. So this is minus half length. So my half length is starting from 19 to 58 inches. Then I added 2 inches seam allowance. Alright, so this is what I have. So this now is going to be my start point. I don't know if you can see it very well clearly. So this is going to be my start point here. So I'll go ahead at this start point. This way I'm going to be starting my waist measurement. So now I will start my waist measurement. I also add my seam allowance. Alright, then I'll place my tape back to my start point and mark 9 inches. The 9 inches is where my hip measurement will sit. So now I'm going to be marking my hip measurement. That is my round hip. I also add my seam allowance here. Okay, so we have done for the waist and the hip. Then we're going to still place the tape back to our start point and mark 18 inches. The 18 inches we are marking is for our new length. Alright, this is where our mermaid is going to start flowing from. So now I'm going to be placing my tape back here. I want to mark the round. So now, as I have my hip measurement to be 10.5 inches, I'm going to be removing 1 inch from it. Okay, so I have 9.5 inches. Then I'll be adding 1.5 inch seam allowance to it. Then I'll connect it. Alright, so whatever you have at your hip measurements, you remove 1 inch from it and mark it on your new length. Then you connect the dots together. So from my waist, I'm going to connect to my hip. From my hip, I'm going to connect to my knee. So make your curve. I don't know, this chalk is not that bright, but if you listen carefully to what I'm saying, you'll be able to understand. So here now, this is from my waist to my hip, from my hip to my knee. Then from this knee now, I'm going to be making a triangle form. So from here, I'm going to curve it into this area here. So from here now, I'm going to be dragging it down. To this point. So this is what I have. Then the next thing I'll go ahead to do is to cut it out. So now we'll go ahead to cut this out. I don't know if you can see it properly, but just try to. So you can see the shape of our mermaid coming out little by little. So I'll go ahead here. So this is what I have. So this is my front piece. I'll be using this to cut out for the back piece. For the back piece, the next thing I did was to fold my fabric into two again, then place my front on top. Now if you watch closely, we have a space before we place our front piece. Okay, this space now is 7 inches. We have 7 inches. This is for us to form our tail that is going to be at the back. All right, then coming to the down part of it, which is here, you have to leave 10 inches depending on how long you want your tail to be. So if you want it to be very long, you can add more inches, maybe 20, 30. But now I'm just using 10 inches. You can decide to use less, depends on how full you want your tail to be. Alright, same thing with this part also, which is 7 inches. You can decide to add extra to it. So I'm working with 7 and 10 inches. So now, this is where my new length is. Okay? So, whatever your zip allowance you're working with, you divide it into two. Like my zip allowance is 2 inches, so I'll be working with half of it here. I'll be working half of it here, which is 1 inches. So this is my 1 inches. From this 1 inches now, I'm going to connect it down to the end of my gown, down to the end of my tail. So that is what I have there. Then for this upper part, I'm going to mark my 2 inches, which is me. Alright, for my zip. Then from there I'm going to mark 10 inches. Alright. Then at this start point now, I'm going to mark 1 inch again. I'm doing this on 0.75 just to control my zip bulge at the back. Okay, so from here now I will now connect it to this my 1 inch that I have here. Then I'll go ahead and cut. Then for the down part of it now, remember we have formed the tail here. Now I'm going to connect this sharp point that is here to this area, to this point that is here. So I'm going to use my scissors to do this. So I'll go ahead and connect them together. So this is what I have, after which I will now trim out this end. I'm done. This is what my gown will look like. I'll go ahead and cut out a doll face or a duchess or a crepe material that you're working with it. So then you join it just the normal way you join your skirts together.